FS AccuRow system found on the early riser planter utilizes a compressor to develop the air to turn your clutches on or off. The filter on the air compressor should be blown out daily or every 10 hours. The filter should be replaced every 200 hours or every season. If the filter is not replaced or serviced on a regular basis, air compressor failure could occur. The tanks mounted back on the early riser planter that hold the air for the air clutches should be drained daily. If it does not drain daily, condensation can occur and moisture can build up, causing air compressor or clutch failure. The row clutch found on each early riser row unit needs regular maintenance. Every 100 hours, dry silicone spray should be sprayed into the Phillips head screw port found on the clutch housing. A single drop of air-to oil should be used to lubricate the piston in the silver portion of that air clutch. A single drop can be placed after the hose is removed from that clutch for proper lubrication. After 2 or 3 seasons of use, it may be necessary to take the clutch apart and inspect it for damage as well as dust. This, you will find, improves the life of the clutch overall, as well as improves the operation during season. The bulk fill system on the early riser planter requires air containment for proper seed delivery. If any excess air escapes, poor seed delivery can be the result. We want to be sure to check the covers and the lids on the bulk fill tanks for any damage or misplacement, as well as on the bottom, the inductor box, any seals or damage to those seals allowing air to escape. All those can result in poor seed delivery. At the end of each season of use, be sure we're draining all the seed out of the bulk tanks, mini hoppers, or on-row hoppers if your planter is equipped. Likewise with the liquid fertilizer system, if your planter has it, be sure we're draining all the fertilizer and flushing that system with water. Once we're done flushing it, fill the system and all the components with a 50-50 mixture of water and a non-toxic propylene-based antifreeze. This will assure proper operation for years into the future. This non-toxic propylene-based antifreeze is available from your Case IH dealer. After the seed is placed in the seed trench, there are 2 closing discs that come along and push the soil on top of the seed. These closing discs are 8 inches in diameter when they are new and should be replaced at 7.5 inches. While planting, take a look at how well the seed trenches are being closed. If they are not being closed well enough, Case IH Parts offers different spring kits to be able to add additional down pressure to those closing discs. Heavy-duty down pressure springs are available only from your Case IH dealer. There are different holes available within the arms of the down pressure springs and in the closing discs arm themselves. Simply move the pin to a different hole to add depth or additional downforce. The early riser planter prides itself on its depth control. We want to make sure that we are digging behind that planter to make sure that we have the depth control that we want. If any parts have been replaced, opening discs, the firming point, closing discs, we want to make sure that the row unit is zeroed. See your operator's manual or talk to your Case IH dealer to zero your row unit. When adjusting depth on the early riser planter, we turn the lever at the rear of the row unit. We use the number of turns to adjust that depth control. Once depth has been adjusted, be sure you dig behind each row unit to make sure that it has the depth that you desire. While digging behind the early riser planter, if you find row to row the depth is not consistent, one place you might look is the downforce control. If row units are bouncing and do not have enough downforce, you might find our depth control to be uneven row to row. Your early riser planter utilizes chains to drive the seed meters and drive systems. This chain should be lubricated with Case IH lubricant per your operator's manual specifications. Proper tire inflation is always important on any piece of equipment. It's particularly important for the early riser planter for proper depth control and proper operation. Be sure you're referring to your operator's manual and checking the tire inflation pressures for all the tires across the planter. The rolling press wheel at the rear of the early riser row unit is responsible for removing any air pockets above the seed or around the seed. It also strikes the soil to help us give a cracking point for the seed to emerge. We want to make sure that that press wheel is in good condition. Check it for any cracks, check it for any damage. If it's damaged, replace it. The gauge wheel on the early riser row unit is there for depth control as well as a place for the soil to go, a soil storage area you might call it. Be sure to check this gauge wheel for any damage to the rim as well as any damage to the rubber wheel on the outside. We also want to be checking for any space between the opening disc and the gauge wheel. That space can be between 0 and 1/8 inch. If this space needs to be adjusted, remove the gauge wheel and replace and install washers as needed on the pivot pin. The early riser row unit uses a pulled style gauge wheel. This gauge wheel is much easier to pull through the field and doesn't require as much maintenance as other planters with a pushed style gauge wheel. Operators should be checking the pivot pin at the front of this gauge wheel to make sure that it's not bent or broken. To open the seed trench, the early riser planter uses 2 offset opening discs. When they're new, they measure 14 inches in diameter. At 13.5 inches, they should be replaced with genuine Case IH new opener discs. The clearance between the openers should measure between 0 and 1/8 of an inch. To adjust this clearance, remove the opening disc and install or remove washers as needed. Be sure to check the opening discs for any kind of runout or wobble. If they're starting to show signs of runout, replace the opening disc or the bearing as needed. The early riser planter prides itself on precise depth control. The early riser opener discs are the start of that process. It cuts through residue, it opens the seed trench, and also starts the bottom of that trench. Because of this, opener discs should be replaced in pairs. If only one is replaced, that could cause a problem and hinder our depth control for seed placement. These opener discs are available from your Case IH dealer. They're made of earth metal and are known for their long wear characteristics. Several different thicknesses to improve wear life are also available. Our standard opening disc is 3.5 millimeters. The 4.5 millimeter disc or 5 millimeter disc is available from the parts department at your Case IH dealership. All of our opening discs are now available in a new heavy-duty low-profile bearing. Please see your Case IH dealer and your parts department for more details. On the outside of the opening disc is a scraper. The scraper is there to remove any excess soil that might get built up on the opening disc. When a soil is no longer being removed by the scraper, it's time to replace it. After the opening disc, cut through the residue and open the seed trench. A firming point removes any excess soil from that trench. We want precise depth control, and that firming point allows that. The firming point does wear. We want to make sure that we replace it at the same time we replace the opening disc for precise depth control. To know if that firming point is wore out, we use the firming point gauge. The operator should slide the gauge over the bottom of the firming point and look in the window. If the window shows any portion of the gauge wheel, it doesn't really need to be replaced at this time, unless you have replaced the openers. If you do not see any of the point of the firming point there, the firming point should be replaced with genuine Case IH firming points. The early riser row unit is known for its early, even emergence. The seed shoe is responsible for protecting the seed while the seed is dropped down through and into the seed trench. The shoe helps provide that depth control. We want to make sure and check the seed shoe for any wear on the sides as well as alignment within the opening discs. If the seed shoe is off to the side or off to the right or left, we might find that our seed placement is not where we want it to be. If it is off to the left or right, we want to make sure that we loosen the 2 bolts that mount it and move it back to the center. On early riser planters equipped with PTO pumps, the operator should be checking the level of oil in the PTO pump reservoir on a regular basis, before the season as well as throughout that season. Proper oil level will provide proper operation throughout the entire season. The oil that should be used is High-Tran Ultra. Likewise with the oil filter. The oil filter should be replaced on a regular basis. Please refer to your operator's manual for that interval and refer to your Case IH dealer for the proper oil filter. Supporting the weight of the early riser row unit are the parallel links. These links ride on bushings on the front and rear of part of the link. Be sure to be checking these bushings for wear as well as damage. If the bushings are wore, you will find the row unit can wobble. If the row unit is not stable, replace these bushings. The advanced seed meter on the early riser planter utilizes the largest seed disc in the industry. This leads to slower disc rotation for better seed placement. The seed disc within the advanced seed meter has wear grooves on it. The seed disc will wear, and this is normal. However, when vacuum starts to be affected and we reach the bottom of our seed grooves within the seed disc, we should replace that seed disc with a genuine Case IH seed disc. The early riser planter, advanced seed meter, and bulk fill system utilize a specialized graphite available only from your Case IH dealer. Utilizing other types of graphite available at farm stores or other dealerships, or even the spray type graphite on seed discs is not recommended. Additional wear can come from this, as well as poor performance. Properly maintaining and inspecting the seed disc within the advanced seed meter is critical for proper seed placement. The seed disc should be inspected for wear as well as warping. If the seed disc is not flat, be sure you replace that seed disc. If the seed disc is not flat, accelerated wear might be found as well as excess torque on the seed meter system itself. The seed disc cover on the advanced seed meter holds the seed disc in place, as well as has the vacuum chamber to distribute the air to hold the seeds to the disc. This cover should be inspected for wear as well as any kind of warpage. If it is warped or worn, replace it. Within the advanced seed meter is the 3-spooled singulator. This singulator provides our accurate population control. We should be inspecting this singulator for any damage. There's a wear groove on the outer edge of that singulator. If the singulator spool is worn, that groove will no longer be visible. Be sure to be checking the operator's manual for proper settings for the singulator. Be checking each one of the row units as well to make sure that the singulator is set on the same setting to each row. After making any adjustments to the advanced seed meter, be sure that all hoses and connections are securely tightened and are reconnected to the advanced seed meter. Seed tube sensors are found in the seed tube below the seed meter. These sensors provide feedback to the display and provide you the population that you're actually planting. These seed tube sensors should be cleaned on a regular basis with the brush provided with each early riser planter. If the display becomes erratic, soap and water can be also used to clean the seed tube sensors.